He left me to die in that burning hell. And 10 years later, I saw him smiling under the American flag. You ever look at someone and feel your blood go cold? Not from fear, but from fury so deep it shakes your bones? That's what happened when I saw his face again. The man who abandoned me in the desert, who sealed my fate with one order, now stood tall in front of cameras and senators, shaking hands, laughing like a goddamn hero. They said his courage saved a dozen men that day. They didn't mention the one he left behind. They didn't mention me, the ghost he buried under the sand so he could stand there, shining in medals that weren't his to wear. The crowd cheered as the ribbon touched his chest. I just stood there, silent, the heat of that Iraqi sun burning in my memory again. I could smell the smoke, the blood, hear the chopper blades fading as he flew away. 10 years hadn't dulled a thing. The wound never healed. It just learned how to hide. He wore honor on his chest. I carried truth in my scars. And what I did next, no one saw coming. The ending will shock you. We met in training, 2 kids trying to look tougher than we were. The heat, the sweat, the constant yelling from sergeants, it forged men out of boys, or broke them in half. He never broke. He had this calm confidence, like the kind of guy born already knowing how to survive. While others panicked, he smiled through the mud. When we were ordered to crawl through barbed wire, he turned it into a joke that made us all laugh, even with our faces buried in dirt. We became brothers long before the war, shared cigarettes, bad jokes, and bruises that never healed right. In the field, trust isn't a choice, it's oxygen. And I trusted him completely. During a training explosion gone wrong, a flashbang misfired and sent me to the ground. My ears were ringing, my leg bleeding, and he was the one who dragged me to safety. From that moment, I owed him my life. He climbed the ranks fast. Sharp mind, steady hands, the kind of soldier officers notice. I used to think he was born to lead, to protect. We'd talk about what we'd do after the war. Open a bar, maybe, somewhere no one knew our names. But there was something in his eyes. Something I never learned to read. A silence behind the smile. The kind of quiet that doesn't come from peace. It comes from calculation. Fallujah, 2006. The air was thick enough to choke on. Dust, smoke, and the ghost of gunpowder hanging over everything. The kind of heat that melts steel and sanity. We weren't supposed to be heroes that day. Just ghosts with rifles, slipping through alleys where every shadow could shoot back. He led the team, steady voice, eyes scanning the rooftops like a hawk. I was on comms, headset glued to my ear, pulse pounding with every static whisper. Our mission was simple on paper. Recon a village suspected of harboring insurgents, mark possible weapon caches, report, and fall back. Simple never survives contact. The streets were too quiet. Kids gone, doors shut. Even the dogs were missing. My gut twisted. Something was wrong. He looked back once, gave a small nod, and we moved. The sound of boots on broken glass was the only rhythm left in the world. Then came the flash, a roar that split the sky open, the ground buckled under us. Screams, dust, gunfire. I hit the dirt, ears ringing, radio crackling with chaos. He barked orders through the haze, calm and sharp like a blade. "Hold the line! Eyes up!" For a moment, I thought we'd make it. Just another bad day in hell. But that was before the second blast. Before everything we were started to burn. The second blast hit closer, a thunderclap of fire and metal that tore the world apart. The street vanished in dust and screams. I hit the ground hard, shrapnel ripping through my leg. Pain shot up like lightning. My rifle slipped from my hands, half buried in sand and blood. Around me, the squad scattered, silhouettes in smoke, shouting names I could barely hear. "Command, this is Delta 6, I yelled into the radio, voice breaking. "We're pinned, multiple casualties, requesting extraction." Static. Then his voice, calm, clipped, familiar. "Copy that. Hold position. We're assessing the LZ." The seconds stretched. Gunfire closed in. I saw 2 men fall beside me. I pressed the radio again. "We need airlift now. I'm hit." Silence. Then, colder than the sand beneath me. "We can't go back. Too hot." For a moment, I thought I'd misheard. But then the roar of the helicopter cut through the smoke, rising, fading, leaving. I looked up and saw him at the door, silhouetted against the sun. Our eyes met. No words, no signal, just that look, the kind you don't forget even if you live 100 years. Then he was gone. The sound of the blades vanished into the horizon, and the desert swallowed everything else. My world shrank to breath, blood, and heat. I crawled through broken glass and burning debris, dragging my dead leg across the sand. The sand became my coffin, the sun my punishment. I screamed his name once, but the desert kept it. That was the day he buried me alive. They found me 3 days later. Not the army, but a family from the village we were supposed to be watching. An old man and his son dragged me into a cellar beneath a half-collapsed house. I drifted in and out of consciousness, tasting blood, sand, and the bitter edge of morphine they didn't have. For a week, I lay in darkness, hearing gunfire above and wondering if I was already dead. When the shooting stopped, the old man handed me a cracked radio. Through the static came my own obituary. My unit had withdrawn. The report said I was killed in action. My name neatly folded into the paperwork of war. Then I heard his voice on a broadcast, calm, proud, polished. He'd acted heroically under fire, they said, made impossible decisions to save his men. They called him a hero. Lying there, half a ghost, I realized the truth. He'd killed me, just not with bullets. He'd erased me so he could wear the story. The villagers slipped me across the border weeks later. My body healed, but something else didn't. When I crawled out of that desert, I wasn't the same man anymore. The dead don't forget. They just wait. When I finally made it back to the States, there was no welcome home, no flags, no family waiting at the gate. The military had already buried me. My parents got a folded flag and a letter saying their son died a hero. I didn't have the heart to tell them their hero was still breathing. I just disappeared, like a ghost slipping through the cracks of the country I once fought for. I took jobs no one noticed. Night shifts, warehouses, security gigs. People avoided my eyes, maybe because they saw something hollow staring back. My leg ached when it rained, and the scars on my chest itched whenever I dreamed of sand. He moved up fast. Lieutenant, then captain, medals pinned, interviews aired, stories written about his courage under fire. I watched him once on TV, his posture perfect, his voice steady. He talked about sacrifice, brotherhood, duty. I turned off the screen before I punched it. He had speeches, I had nightmares. The years stretched like desert miles. I stopped talking to people, stopped sleeping without the taste of dust in my mouth. 10 years. 10 years of silence until one night I saw him again. Not in a dream, but on a screen. He was in uniform, chest full of medals, smiling beneath the same flag that once flew over my grave. The ceremony was held in D.C., under chandeliers and banners soaked in pride. I wasn't invited. I just walked in. Another face in a crowd of uniforms and suits, ghosts blending with the living. My heart didn't beat faster. It just burned slower. He stepped onto the stage like he owned the air around him. The spotlight hit the silver of his medals, scattering light across the room like broken glass. Every step he took was deliberate, rehearsed, the perfect soldier, the perfect lie. The general pinned another ribbon to his chest, and the crowd erupted. Applause thundered through the hall, drowning out the echo of all the men who never came home. They applauded him like he was God. I stood there in silence, my jaw tight, hands shaking not from fear but from memory. The sand, the smell of burning flesh, his voice over the radio. "We can't go back." When the ceremony ended, I followed him. Down the marble stairs, through the empty corridor where the sound of his boots hit like gunfire. He stopped at the exit to take off his cap. And that's when he saw me. For a second, the metal on his chest caught the light. Then he froze. The color drained from his face. He didn't have to say my name. The fear in his eyes said it for him. I didn't draw a gun. I stepped out of the shadow and said it flat. "Killing you would make me one of you." That line was the turning point. Revenge didn't have to be loud. It could be slow, surgical like a surgeon who knows exactly which nerve to cut. I collected everything. The mission logs, the scrubbed radio tapes, old patrol reports with names crossed out. I found a medic's note with ink smudged where someone had tried to hide the truth. I copied dates, stitched timelines, mapped who benefited when men vanished. I wrapped the files in manila, anonymous, and sent them up the chain. A package to the Inspector General. An encrypted tip to a reporter who hated cover-ups. A voicemail left on an old command line that still lit up in the right inbox. I watched from a distance as doors started to open. Questions were asked. Names surfaced. He smiled on camera, and then the cameras started asking harder things. I didn't need a bullet. I had the truth. It cut deeper than steel. The army began to move. Papers landed on desks. Men who once nodded at his orders started to shift in their chairs. I thought silence and facts would be enough. I thought the system would swallow him. I didn't know he would claw back with everything he had left. The call came at midnight. His voice was low, shaking. "We need to talk. Alone." I met him behind an abandoned hangar on the edge of base housing. The air was cold, the kind that bites before dawn. He looked smaller without the medals, just a man stripped bare of lies. For a moment, I almost saw the brother I once knew. Then his hand twitched. He drew first. The flash was blinding. But the shot didn't come from him, or me. It came from the ridge. One clean crack split the night. He dropped before I could blink, blood blooming across the metal on his chest. I didn't kill him. The truth did. And for the first time in 10 years, I finally slept.